The sound of rain filled the night outside the studio. It wasn't loud, just a soft, steady rhythm, like a memory whispering through time. Keanu sat quietly near the back door, his hands resting on a worn leather jacket that looked older than most things around him. Sandra walked past the hallway holding a script when she noticed him sitting alone. She almost said nothing, but something about his stillness made her stop. She stepped closer. "You okay?" she asked softly. Keanu lifted his eyes. They looked tired but calm. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "Just thinking about something I thought I'd forgotten." Her eyes went to the jacket. It was simple, faded at the edges and patched in a few places. "That's your old jacket, right? The one from the early days?" He nodded. "Yeah, I've had it for more than 20 years. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides more than it reveals. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. The world outside was gray, and the quiet between them carried a kind of weight. Sandra had worked with him for years. She had seen him laugh, seen him help crew members carry equipment, seen him comfort a fan crying at an event. But this silence felt different, like it came from a place deeper than anyone could reach easily. She sat beside him. "You kept it for a reason," she said. He looked down at the jacket. "Yeah, I guess I did." The rain thickened outside. Every drop seemed to echo against the tin roof above them. Keanu traced the worn seam near the collar with his thumb. "This jacket belonged to someone who once believed in me when no one else did," he said slowly. "It's not just cloth to me, it's what's left of a person who never came back." Sandra felt her chest tighten. She didn't ask right away. She just listened. She had learned over time that Keanu opened up only when people didn't push. After a long pause, he continued, his voice low. "His name was Liam. We met when I was nobody. I was sleeping in my car most nights, working small theater gigs. He worked at a diner near Sunset Boulevard. One night, I came in half-soaked, couldn't even afford coffee. He gave me this jacket, said, you'll need it more than me tonight. I told him I'd pay him back someday." He laughed. "Said he just wanted me to make something of myself." He looked away. The corners of his mouth trembled a bit, though he tried to hide it. He was gone a few weeks later. Hit-and-run accident. "I never got to say thank you?" Sandra didn't move. She could see the quiet pain that came with memory. "So you kept it all this time?" Keanu nodded. "It reminded me where I started. Who helped me. Sometimes people see success and forget the small kindness that built it. I never wanted to forget. For a while, only the rain spoke. It filled the empty space like a song that didn't need words. Then Sandra asked, "Why are you holding it now?" Keanu exhaled deeply, his eyes fixed on the distant wall. "Because I think it's time to let it go. But I don't know how." Her heart ached at the honesty in his tone. Letting go of something that held memory wasn't easy. She knew that. Everyone had something. A photo, a letter, a voice message that carried too much meaning to release. She placed her hand gently on his arm. "Maybe it's not about letting it go," she said quietly. "Maybe it's about passing it on. Like Liam did." He turned to look at her. The idea seemed to settle in his eyes slowly, like dawn touching a cold horizon. Later that evening, after the shoot, they walked out together. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shined with leftover reflections of city lights. As they stood near the studio gate, a young worker hurried past them. A teenager, maybe 18, trying to cover himself with a torn plastic bag against the drizzle. His hands were shaking as he tried to zip up his thin hoodie. Sandra saw Keanu watching him. There was that same look again, that quiet, thoughtful stare that always came before he did something unexpected. Without saying a word, Keanu stepped toward the boy. "Hey," he said softly. The boy turned, surprised. "Take this," Keanu said, holding out the old jacket. The boy blinked. "No, sir, I can't." "You can," Keanu said gently. "Someone gave it to me once when I needed it more than they did. Now it's your turn." The boy hesitated, then slowly reached out and took it. He wore it immediately. It was a little big on him, but it looked right somehow. "Thank you," the boy whispered. Keanu smiled. "Keep it warm, okay?" As the boy walked away, the streetlight glimmered on the wet road. Keanu stood there for a long time, his hands in his pockets, watching until the boy disappeared around the corner. Sandra spoke quietly beside him. "You finally did it." Keanu nodded, his eyes still fixed on the empty street. "Yeah, but it feels different than I thought." "How?" "Lighter," he said. "And heavier at the same time," she understood. "Sometimes giving away something precious doesn't feel like losing it. It feels like completing a circle that life began years ago." As they started walking toward their cars, Sandra noticed something. The boy had dropped a small card near the gate. She picked it up. It was an old photograph, slightly wet, showing a group of kids at what looked like a shelter. One of them, a younger version of the boy, wore the same plastic smile that came from surviving hard days. On the back, someone had written, "Never forget who helped you when you had nothing." Sandra looked at Keanu. "You need to see this." He read the words and froze. Something inside him shifted. It was like fate had spoken the same message Liam once told him. And suddenly he realized maybe Liam wasn't gone at all. Maybe kindness travels through people like a chain that never breaks, only changes hands. That night, Keanu drove home in silence. The seat beside him felt empty without the jacket. But for the first time in years, his heart didn't. He parked near his apartment and sat quietly, looking at the city lights below. Then he whispered, "Thank you, Liam. I think you'd be proud." The stars outside blurred softly through the windshield, like tears hiding in light. Somewhere deep inside, he felt peace begin. Slow, quiet, real. And that was the night Keanu Reeves realized that some things aren't meant to be kept forever. They are meant to be shared, so others can carry their warmth forward. The morning after the rain felt strange. The sun came out shyly through thin clouds, lighting the studio lot with a soft golden hue. Sandra arrived early that day, still thinking about the scene from last night. She couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind. The boy's trembling hands, the way Keanu looked at him, the quiet peace on his face after giving away something that had carried 20 years of memories. When she reached her trailer, something unusual was waiting on the small table outside. A folded piece of paper wrapped carefully in a plastic sleeve, still damp around the edges. Her name was written on it in uneven handwriting. She opened it gently. Inside was a note. "Dear Miss Sandra, I didn't know how else to say thank you. Last night, that man, Mr. Reeves, gave me something more than a jacket. He gave me warmth and hope. I didn't even tell him my name. It's Alex. I work nights cleaning the back lot to save for my mother's hospital treatment. That jacket. It used to belong to someone who believed in him, right? Now I think I understand what that means. Someone once believed in me too, my mom. And now I want to do the same for someone else someday. Please tell him I'll keep it safe. And tell him, thank you for reminding me that good people still exist." Alexandra held the note tightly. The words were simple, but something about them struck deep. She read it again, slowly this time, her eyes lingering on the sentence about the hospital. She walked to Keanu's trailer, knocked lightly, and found him sitting by the window with a cup of coffee. He looked peaceful, though there was that usual trace of thoughtfulness in his expression, the kind that never really left him. "You're early," he said softly. "You need to see this," she said. Handing him the letter, he took it, unfolded it, and began to read. His lips pressed together halfway through. When he finished, he didn't speak for a while. He just stared at the paper, as if it carried more weight than its size could hold. Finally, he said quietly, "His mom's in the hospital?" "Yes," Sandra replied. "He works here at night. Cleans the lot after everyone leaves." Keanu leaned back, exhaling. "I should have talked to him more." "You did enough," she said. "You gave him hope," but he shook his head. "Sometimes words matter just as much as kindness. I know what it's like to lose someone and not have the chance to say what you needed to." Sandra nodded. She knew his history, the losses, the pain that shaped his gentleness. "Then maybe it's not too late," she said. Keanu looked up. "What do you mean?" "Let's find him." By noon, they had asked around the back lot. Most workers didn't know names, people came and went, but one guard remembered a boy who stayed late, quiet and polite, always wearing worn sneakers and carrying an old backpack. "He usually leaves around 3 in the morning," the guard said. "You won't see him in the daytime." He catches the first bus out before sunrise. Keanu nodded. Then we'll come tonight. Sandra hesitated. You're serious? He smiled faintly. You think I'd forget a letter like that? That night, the studio was quiet again. The bright sets were empty, cameras covered, cables coiled neatly in corners. The silence felt almost like the previous nights. Except this time, it wasn't just rain that filled it. It was anticipation. Keanu and Sandra waited near the back gate, their car parked under a flickering light. The air was cool and calm. It felt like the world was holding its breath. Around 2:45 a.m., they saw him, Alex, walking with a broom over his shoulder, humming softly to himself. The jacket hung loosely on him, its sleeves rolled, the edges brushing against his hands. Keanu stepped out slowly. Hey, Alex? The boy froze, eyes wide. You remembered my name? Keanu smiled. You wrote it in the letter. Alex's face turned pink. I didn't think you'd read it. I did, Keanu said softly. And I wanted to see you again. Sandra joined them, her voice gentle. We wanted to make sure your mom's okay. The boy looked down. She's in a public hospital. Kidney problem. I'm trying to manage. The treatment's expensive, but I'll figure something out. Keanu's eyes softened. How old are you? 18, Alex said. I finished school but couldn't go to college. Not yet. Keanu nodded slowly. You know, when I was about your age, I lost my best friend. He gave me that jacket. Alex looked at it, then back at Keanu. I'll take care of it, he said quickly. Keanu smiled. I know you will, but that's not why I came. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded check. This isn't charity. Think of it as a promise, the same kind Liam made to me. Alex stared at the paper, then shook his head. Sir, I can't. You can, Keanu interrupted softly. Because one day you'll help someone else. That's how it works. We pass it forward. Tears welled up in Alex's eyes. His lips trembled as he whispered, Thank you. Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. Just promise me you'll keep believing, in yourself and in kindness. Alex nodded, his voice breaking. I promise. The moment lingered. It was quiet but full of meaning. After Alex left, Sandra turned to Keanu. You realize you just changed that boy's life? He shrugged gently. Maybe. Or maybe he changed mine. Sandra smiled. You always say things like that? Because it's true, he said, looking up at the dim streetlight. Every time we help someone, we save a piece of ourselves too. They stood there for a while, neither speaking, the night stretching out in silver silence. The city beyond the walls glimmered faintly, full of unknown stories and small miracles waiting to happen. The next few days passed quietly. Filming continued. Scenes rolled. Life returned to its usual rhythm, almost. Except now, Keanu seemed lighter, not louder, not happier in an obvious way, just lighter, as if a burden he'd carried quietly had finally found peace. Sandra noticed. She also noticed something else. Every time they passed a new crew member, Keanu greeted them by name. Sometimes he'd stop to help carry a light stand. Sometimes he'd just share a small smile. And it wasn't just politeness. It was genuine. The kind that leaves people feeling seen. One afternoon, she found him sitting on the steps outside the studio, talking with a young intern who looked nervous about her first week. Keanu was listening to her carefully, nodding, offering advice that wasn't about fame or success, but about being kind to yourself when the world forgets to be. Sandra watched from a distance, smiling. That was his gift. He made people believe again, in quiet goodness, in steady hearts, in things that never made headlines. A week later, Sandra received another note, this time through the studio's front desk. It was from Alex again. Dear Miss Sandra and Mr. Reeves, my mom's surgery went well. She's recovering. The doctor said we caught it in time. I wanted to tell you both that your kindness did more than help her. It made me realize I want to be someone who brings peace to others, too. Maybe someday, I'll open a small center for kids who don't have support. I'll call it Liam's Place. If that's okay? The letter ended with a small drawing. A boy holding a jacket under the rain, smiling. Sandra read it out loud to Keanu. He didn't speak for several seconds. When he finally did, his voice was soft. "Liam's place," he repeated. "That sounds right." He remembered the name, she said. "Yeah," Keanu whispered, eyes glistening slightly. "That's how kindness keeps moving. Name to name, hand to hand." He looked toward the open studio doors where light poured in. It was golden, bright, almost like the warmth of that old jacket he once wore through cold nights. For the first time, he realized that maybe the jacket was never about remembering loss. Maybe it was always about keeping hope alive. And somewhere deep inside, he felt Liam's voice again, not as an echo of the past, but as something alive in the present, living on through a boy named Alex who now carried the same spirit forward, and Keanu smiled, quiet, gentle, and real. The months passed slowly, and the days around the studio began to blur together. The movie wrapped, the cameras were packed, and the set that once echoed with lines and laughter now stood silent under sheets of dust. Life had moved on, as it always does. But one morning, as Sandra walked into her office, she noticed an envelope slipped under the door. It wasn't from a manager or a fan. It was unmarked except for 3 words written neatly in blue ink, for Mr. Reeves. She smiled softly, immediately knowing who it was from. Inside was a small photograph. In it, Alex stood beside his mother in a hospital courtyard. She was thin, her face pale, but smiling brightly, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. Both of them looked happy, free in a quiet, humble way that money or fame could never buy. Behind the picture, a short message was written: "Thank you for giving me back my mother, and for giving me something to believe in. We named the recovery ward Liam's Corner. I'll visit the studio soon. There's something I need to tell you." Sandra stared at the message for a long moment before taking it straight to Keanu. He was sitting in his backyard, surrounded by plants and the quiet sound of a small water fountain. Sunlight scattered through the leaves, dancing on his face as he looked up from a book. She handed him the photo. "From Alex?" she said. He took it carefully, like it was something fragile. When he saw the writing, his lips curved into a slow, thoughtful smile. "He really did it," he said quietly. "Liam's Corner. He said he wants to tell you something," Sandra added. Keanu nodded. "Then let's hear him out." A week later, Alex arrived. He looked different now. Cleaner clothes, steady eyes, and a calm confidence that hadn't been there before. Still, his humble tone hadn't changed. Keanu met him outside the same studio where they first spoke. The place seemed warmer now, like the kindness from that night had stayed behind in the air. "Hey, Alex," Keanu greeted. "Good to see you again," Alex smiled. "You too, sir." "And you, Miss Sandra." They sat on a wooden bench under a tree, away from the noise of the lot. Alex took a deep breath, as if he'd been carrying something heavy for weeks. "I found something," he began. "Something I think you should know." Keanu leaned forward. "Go on." Alex reached into his backpack and pulled out an old photo, folded, cracked, faded at the edges. It showed a man in a diner uniform, his arms slung around a younger version of himself, Keanu. Sandra blinked in surprise. "Wait, is that—" Keanu's breath caught. "Liam," he whispered. "Yes," Alex said softly. "That's him. I found this picture in my mother's old things. She said Liam was her cousin." Keanu looked stunned. "Your mother knew him?" Alex nodded. "Yeah. She told me stories about a kind man who used to help everyone, even when he didn't have much himself. She said he once gave away his jacket to someone who looked lost but full of potential. She said that moment changed Liam forever." For a moment, the world around them seemed to still. Even the distant hum of cars faded. Keanu stared at the photo, his hands trembling slightly. "So Liam was your family," he said quietly. Alex nodded again. "I didn't know until recently. My mom said she always wondered what happened to the man he gave his jacket to. When she saw your name in the letter I wrote, she cried. She said it was fate bringing his kindness full circle." Keanu leaned back, eyes glistening. "Fate," he murmured. "Or maybe Liam's way of saying he's still here." The boy's eyes softened. "My mom said Liam used to talk about you a lot. He said you were different, that even when the world was hard on you, you stayed kind. He told her that if anything ever happened to him, he hoped you'd carry that kindness forward." Sandra's eyes watered as she listened. She could see the emotion written on Keanu's face. Not the kind that breaks, but the kind that heals slowly, piece by piece. "He was right," she said softly. "You did." Keanu smiled faintly, still staring at the photo. "I never thought I'd see this again," he said. "It feels like he's talking to me right now." Alex hesitated, then said, "There's more." He took out a small, folded note from the same envelope. It was yellowed, creased, the ink faint but readable. He handed it to Keanu. It was written in Liam's handwriting. "If you ever find this, Keanu, it means I didn't get the chance to say goodbye. You reminded me that kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. Don't ever let the world harden you. Someday you'll pass it on. And when you do, know that I'll be smiling somewhere, proud of the man you became." Keanu's eyes filled with tears as he read it. He didn't speak right away. He just sat there, holding the letter close to his heart. After a long silence, he whispered, "He knew. Even back then, he knew this day would come." Sandra placed a hand on his shoulder. "And now you know why you kept that jacket for so long," she said gently. He nodded slowly. "It wasn't mine to keep. It was mine to carry." The three of them sat quietly for a while. The evening sun dipped lower, casting soft gold over the studio walls. It felt almost sacred, like time itself had stopped to honor the moment. Alex finally said, "I want to keep Liam's promise alive. I've been saving a little money from work. I talked to a local shelter. They said I could volunteer, maybe start something small for street kids. I want to call it Liam's Place, like I wrote before. But now I want you both to be part of it." Keanu smiled. "You don't need me to lead it," he said. "But I'll be there. I'll help in any way I can." "Me too," Sandra added. "This story deserves to keep growing." Alex looked relieved, his eyes bright with emotion. "Thank you. I think Liam would have wanted that." Keanu glanced at the photo one last time before folding it gently. "Liam didn't just help me once," he said softly. "He helped all of us, even now. Through you, through this." The boy smiled. And for a fleeting moment, Keanu saw a shadow of Liam in him, the same calm kindness, the same open heart. As they walked away from the bench, the sky turned orange and purple. The world felt bigger, yet more connected than ever. Keanu looked up at the fading light and whispered, "We keep the story alive, not by remembering the pain, but by continuing the kindness." Sandra glanced at him. "That's what makes you different," she said. "No," he replied quietly. "That's what makes us human." And as they disappeared into the evening glow, it felt like Liam was walking beside them, unseen, but forever present. 2 months later, the soft hum of construction filled the narrow street where Liam's place was coming to life. The small building stood between two old shops, its bricks faded but full of character. It wasn't fancy. It didn't need to be. It carried something deeper, a story built from kindness, loss, and second chances. Keanu arrived early that morning with Sandra. Alex was already there, his sleeves rolled, paint smudged across his hands. He looked tired but happy, the kind of happy that comes from doing something meaningful. "You've been busy?" Sandra said, smiling as she looked around the half-finished hall. Alex laughed. "Yeah, the neighbors probably hate me already. We've been painting through the night." Keanu walked around slowly, his eyes tracing every detail. The mural on the far wall showing children under an open umbrella, the shelves stacked with old books. The warm smell of coffee drifting from a corner. "It feels alive," Keanu said softly. "It is," Alex replied. "We already have kids dropping by after school. They just sit, read, or talk. Some of them don't even speak much, but they come back." "That's something?" Sandra's heart warmed. "You're doing exactly what Liam did for you," she said. Alex smiled. "I'm trying." They spent the day arranging chairs, unpacking donations, and fixing lights. There was laughter, some quiet moments, and that sense of peace that comes when people work for something that matters. As evening approached, the sun poured through the dusty windows, turning the air golden. Keanu stood by the doorway, watching a few kids draw on the wall with crayons. One of them, a thin boy with messy hair, caught his eye. He sat alone, sketching something on a piece of cardboard. Keanu walked over and crouched beside him. "Hey, what are you drawing?" The boy looked up, startled. Nothing, sir. Just faces." Keanu smiled. "They look good. Do you like drawing?" The boy hesitated. "Yeah, but I want to act. I watch movies on old TVs sometimes. I like when people make you feel something just by talking." "What's your name?" Keanu asked. "Noah." Sandra joined them, smiling. "Hi, Noah. You come here often?" "Sometimes," he said. "It's quiet here. People listen. Nobody laughs at me." Keanu nodded. "That's what Liam's place is for?" Noah looked confused. "Who's Liam?" Keanu paused, then smiled softly. "Someone who believed in people, even when they didn't believe in themselves." Noah thought about that, his eyes thoughtful. "I wish I had someone like that." Keanu gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe you already do." Over the next few weeks, Noah started visiting every evening. He cleaned the space, helped Alex with errands, and spent hours practicing lines from old movie scripts Sandra brought from her personal collection. Sometimes Keanu would join him, sitting quietly in the back as the boy performed. At first, Noah was nervous. His voice trembled, his hands fidgeted. But Keanu never interrupted. He only smiled and said softly, "Take your time. The world doesn't need perfection. It needs truth." Slowly, Noah grew confident. His voice began to carry emotion, not just words. One night, after finishing a scene, he turned to Keanu and said, "When I act, I forget everything bad for a while. It's like I'm somewhere else." Keanu nodded. "That's exactly what acting is. It's not pretending. It's remembering what's real." Sandra watched them quietly from the doorway. Something about their bond reminded her of Keanu and Liam, a cycle repeating itself in a more beautiful way. One evening, while closing up, Alex noticed Keanu sitting outside the building, staring at the city lights. "You okay?" Alex asked, sitting beside him. Keanu smiled faintly. "Yeah, just thinking. This place, it's starting to remind me of something." "What's that?" "The diner where Liam worked. The same warmth, the same quiet hope." Alex nodded. "You know, sometimes I feel like Liam's watching us. Like every time someone new walks through those doors, he's the reason." Keanu looked up at the night sky. Maybe he is. Maybe kindness doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. After a moment, Alex added, "You've changed, you know." Keanu looked at him. "How so?" "You used to carry something heavy. It's gone now. I can see it." Keanu smiled gently. "Maybe because I finally realized, when you hold on to pain, it grows heavier. But when you share kindness, it becomes lighter." The two sat quietly, listening to the faint laughter of children echoing from inside Liam's place. It was soft, pure, and full of promise. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. Noah came running to them, his eyes wide with excitement. "Mr. Reeves! Miss Sandra!" Someone from a small production studio saw my video from Liam's place online. "They want me to audition." Alex blinked. "Wait, someone filmed you?" Noah nodded shyly. One of the volunteers uploaded a short clip. "I didn't even know." Sandra's eyes lit up. "That's amazing, Noah." But Keanu stayed quiet for a moment, studying the boy's face. Then he said softly, "Are you ready for this?" Noah swallowed hard. "I think so, but what if I fail?" Keanu smiled. "Then you learn. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it." Noah took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I'll try." The next day, Keanu and Sandra accompanied him to the small studio downtown. It was simple. One camera, a dimly lit room, and a few people behind the screen. When Noah walked in, his hands trembled again. But then he saw Keanu standing silently in the corner, nodding once. That was enough. He began his scene, a monologue about loss, hope, and forgiveness. And as he spoke, his voice carried something raw and real. The room fell silent. When he finished, even the casting director looked moved. Afterward, as they walked outside, Noah's eyes filled with tears. "I think I did okay," he whispered. Keanu smiled. "You didn't act. You felt. That's rare." Noah hugged him tightly. "Thank you for believing in me." Keanu's voice was soft. "Someone once did the same for me." That night, as they returned to Liam's place, Sandra noticed Keanu staring at the mural on the wall again, the one showing children under an umbrella. This time he reached out and touched the painted figure on the edge, a small hand reaching toward the light. "You know," he said, "I think Liam would have loved this place." Sandra nodded. "He would have been proud of you." Keanu smiled quietly. "No, he'd be proud of Alex and Noah. And everyone who keeps passing it forward." She looked at him for a long moment. "You always downplay yourself," she said. "But you forget. You're the reason it started." Keanu looked around the small room filled with laughter and life. "Maybe," he said softly. "But I think Liam started it. I just carried it long enough for someone else to take it." And as he said that, the light above flickered gently, like a silent nod from somewhere unseen, a sign that kindness had indeed found a way to keep shining. The circle was still turning. The story wasn't ending. It was only growing. The air outside Liam's place carried a quiet chill that evening. The sun had slipped behind the buildings, leaving behind streaks of pink and gold that slowly melted into night. Keanu sat by the window with Sandra, both sipping tea while the sound of children laughing echoed faintly from the next room. Alex came in, smiling, a phone in his hand. "You won't believe this," he said, excitement glowing in his voice. "Noah got the part." Keanu looked up slowly. "He did?" "Yeah," Alex said. "They called an hour ago. He starts shooting next week." Sandra's eyes brightened. "That's incredible." "What did he say?" Alex hesitated. He sounded different, happy, but also nervous. "He said he's moving to another city for filming. He promised to visit before he leaves." Keanu nodded, smiling faintly. "That's good. He deserves it." But something in his tone carried quiet worry, Sandra noticed. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Keanu looked at the fading light outside. "Success is a strange thing," he said. "It can lift you, or it can make you forget who you were when you started." She understood. She had seen it happen too many times, bright hearts dimmed by the glare of fame. A week later, Noah returned. He was wearing new clothes, his hair neatly styled, a shine in his eyes that came from excitement and a little fear mixed together. Everyone at Liam's place clapped when he walked in. "Look at you," Alex said, laughing. "Our star," Noah grinned shyly. "I'm not a star, just lucky." But Keanu saw something else in him, a flicker of change. It wasn't arrogance, not yet. It was the beginning of distance, the kind that grows slowly, almost unnoticed. They sat together for a while. Noah talked about the studio, the cameras, the people who treated him like someone special now. He spoke fast, with the kind of energy that success gives you before it tests you. Sandra smiled through most of it, but when she glanced at Keanu, she saw the quiet reflection in his eyes. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, the same way Liam once listened to him when he was young and full of fire. After a pause, Keanu said softly, "Noah, can I tell you something?" "Sure, sir. The world's going to change how it looks at you now," Keanu said. "They'll call you talented. They'll tell you you're different. But remember, being special isn't about being above others. It's about lifting others with you." Noah nodded quickly. "I understand." But deep down, Keanu could see the boy's heart wasn't fully hearing it yet. He smiled anyway. "I know you do," he said gently. Before leaving, Noah hugged them both and promised, "I'll come back soon." Months passed. Liam's place grew busier. Alex expanded the space with volunteers. Sandra organized small film workshops for local kids. Keanu came often, teaching small lessons about patience, humility, and staying kind even when no one's watching. But Noah didn't return. He called once, his voice rushed, distracted. "Hey, Mr. Reeves, I've been so busy, but the movie's doing great. Maybe next month I'll visit?" Keanu smiled through the phone. "Take your time, Noah. Just don't forget where you started." "Never," Noah said. Then the line went silent. After that, no messages came for a while. One evening, Sandra walked into Liam's place carrying a newspaper. She handed it quietly to Keanu. On the front page was a photo of Noah, standing in front of flashing cameras, a confident smile on his face. The headline read, "New Rising Star Forgets His Humble Beginnings. Controversy Sparks Online." Keanu read the article silently. It said that Noah had ignored charity requests, spoken harshly to crew members, and refused to acknowledge his early mentors. Alex sighed deeply. This can't be true. Not him, Sandra frowned. Maybe fame got to him. It happens. Keanu folded the paper slowly. I should talk to him. A few days later, Keanu went to the film set where Noah was shooting. He didn't go as a celebrity, just as a quiet visitor. He waited by the side, watching the boy deliver his lines under the bright studio lights. Noah saw him after the take ended. For a brief second, guilt flashed in his eyes, but he masked it with a quick smile. Mr. Reeves! What are you doing here? Just visiting an old friend, Keanu said. They walked to a corner where the noise of the set faded. Keanu spoke softly. How have you been? Noah looked away. Busy. Everything's crazy now. I saw the article. Noah's face tightened. They twist everything. They don't understand what it's like. Maybe not, Keanu said gently. But I do. The boy didn't respond. His jaw clenched slightly. Noah, Keanu continued, his voice calm, you don't have to prove anything to the world. The people who really matter, they already saw who you were before the cameras did. Noah's eyes flickered, uncertain. I didn't mean to change. It just happened. Everyone treats me differently now. Keanu nodded. That's how fame works. It gives you noise. Kindness keeps you quiet. Don't lose the quiet. For a long time, neither spoke. The studio lights buzzed above, echoing faintly through the empty hallway. Finally, Noah whispered, I forgot, didn't I? About Liam's place. About why I started. Keanu smiled softly. Then remember now. It's never too late to go back to where your heart began. Noah looked down, tears gathering in his eyes. I hurt people who cared. I thought if I acted strong, no one could break me. Strength isn't about being untouchable, Keanu said quietly. It's about staying gentle when you have every reason not to be. The boy nodded slowly, his voice trembling. Will they forgive me? Keanu put a hand on his shoulder. They already have. All you have to do is walk through that door again. A week later, Noah returned to Liam's place. When he entered, the kids ran to him. Not because he was famous, but because they still remembered the boy who helped them rehearse lines and tell stories. Alex hugged him. Welcome back, kid. Noah's eyes filled with tears. I messed up. We all do, Alex said simply. What matters is you came home. Sandra handed him a small envelope. This was waiting for you. Inside was a letter, written in Liam's handwriting, the same one Keanu had received years ago. It was a copy Keanu had made and left for the wall inside Liam's place. Noah read the words silently. When you find yourself lost, go back to kindness. It will guide you home. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. Keanu stood nearby, watching with quiet pride. Noah whispered, Thank you for not giving up on me. Keanu's voice was soft but steady. That's what Liam did for me. I just did the same. They stood together as the sunset painted the walls orange and gold. Liam's place buzzed with life again, laughter, warmth, forgiveness. The same spirit that started with a jacket and a simple act of kindness now lived in everyone who entered. The cycle of giving had come full circle once more. And as Noah helped a young girl read her first script that evening, Keanu smiled quietly, realizing something deep. Kindness doesn't fade with time. It only multiplies through those who carry it forward. He looked at Sandra and said softly, Maybe that's why Liam gave me that jacket. Not to keep me warm, but to remind me that warmth only matters when you pass it on. And for the first time in years, Keanu felt something rare. Peace that didn't come from the past, but from watching goodness continue without needing him to hold it anymore. Years passed, and Liam's place grew beyond the small street where it began. What started as a single room filled with second-hand chairs and the laughter of a few children had become a foundation, a safe haven that spread to other cities, other countries. Walls that once held simple drawings now carried framed photographs of young people who found purpose, hope, and light within them. Some came to learn art, some to read, some simply to sit and remember. They mattered, But everyone who walked in left carrying something invisible, a little piece of kindness that they would pass to someone else. Keanu was older now. His hair had turned silver, and his eyes carried the softness of someone who had seen both sorrow and peace and learned how to hold both without breaking. He had stepped away from the spotlight quietly, choosing to live in moments instead of headlines. One autumn morning, he stood outside Liam's place, now renovated and larger, its name carved in stone above the door. It read, "Liam's Place, where kindness begins again." Sandra met him at the gate. She, too, had aged gracefully, her voice still calm, her smile still warm. "You made it," she said, walking beside him. "I had to," Keanu replied softly. "It's been too long." Inside, the walls were alive with color. Photographs of children, volunteers, and stories written by those whose lives had changed filled every corner. One picture caught Keanu's eye. It showed Alex, older now, standing beside a young girl who was holding a microphone, her eyes filled with courage. Sandra noticed his gaze. "That's Alex's daughter," she said. "She's continuing his work now." "Can you believe that?" Keanu smiled. "It never ends, does it?" She shook her head. "No, and that's the beauty of it." As they walked deeper inside, laughter echoed from one of the classrooms. A familiar face appeared. Noah, now an adult, his expression calm and humble. He had returned years ago, not as a star, but as a teacher. The children adored him. He noticed Keanu and smiled brightly. "Mr. Reeves," he said, walking over and embracing him. "You came back. I promised I would," Keanu said warmly. "You always keep your promises," Noah said. "The kids here know your story. They even call the reading corner the jacket room. We kept a photo of you and Liam there." Keanu's heart softened. "The jacket room?" "Yeah," Noah said. "We tell them that sometimes a single act can keep someone warm for a lifetime," Sandra laughed softly. "I told you your story would last longer than any film," Keanu chuckled. "It's not my story anymore. It belongs to them," Noah nodded. "Still, it started with you and Liam." Keanu looked around. "And you, and Alex, and everyone who chose to keep it alive." They stood there for a moment, surrounded by quiet joy, the kind that doesn't need music or words to feel whole. Then Alex's daughter walked over, holding a small box wrapped in brown paper. "Mr. Reeves," she said shyly, "we found something while cleaning the storage room last week. I think it's for you." Keanu took the box carefully. It was old, tied with a thin red ribbon. There was a note on top, "To Keanu. If you're reading this, it means you finally came back." The handwriting was Liam's. His breath caught. He untied the ribbon slowly and opened the box. Inside was a folded piece of paper and something wrapped in cloth. The letter read, "You once told me you didn't know where you were going. I told you it didn't matter, as long as you walked with kindness. I had a feeling that jacket would travel further than both of us. I was right. You carried it longer than I ever could. Thank you for keeping its warmth alive. One day when you find peace, pass on the last thing I left for you. Not to hold, but to remind yourself that the world is better because you believed it could be." Keanu unwrapped the cloth. Inside was an old diner key. Liam's diner key, rusty but still shining faintly under the light. For a long time, Keanu just stared at it, his eyes glistening. Then he smiled through the quiet ache in his chest. "He kept this," he whispered. "All these years?" "It found its way back." Sandra placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Maybe that's his way of saying goodbye again, but this time, peacefully." Keanu nodded slowly. "No," he said softly. "Not goodbye, just see you in the next kindness." Noah watched silently, his eyes full of respect. "That's beautiful," he whispered. Keanu smiled, turning to him. "Remember that, Noah. One day you'll give something away that will find its way back to you, not in form, but in feeling. That's how love works. That's how kindness never dies." He walked to the wall where a large mural of Liam's place had been painted, a chain of people passing light from one hand to another. He took the key, hung it gently at the center of the mural, and stepped back. The children gathered, watching quietly. Some didn't even know who he was, but they felt something. That stillness that comes when a moment becomes bigger than the people in it. Sandra whispered beside him. You know, Liam would have loved this ending. Keanu looked at her with a small smile. No, he said softly. This isn't an ending. This is just the jacket finding its next owner. Outside, the sun began to set, filling the sky with golden light. It poured through the glass windows, touching the mural, the key, and the faces around it. And as Keanu walked out of Liam's place, he paused for one last look. The laughter of children filled the air. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen. Someone played a gentle tune on an old piano. Life had moved on, but the warmth remained. He whispered quietly to himself, "Thank you, Liam." Then he smiled, that same quiet, gentle smile that had once carried pain, now filled with peace, because he finally understood what Liam gave him wasn't just a jacket. It was a lifetime of kindness, waiting to be shared. And as the door of Liam's place closed softly behind him, the world outside seemed a little warmer.